So it's now being recorded. In case you have any questions at all, getting some feedback. In case you have any questions at all during the webinar, please drop them into the chat box that you can find in the GoToMeeting platform, and I'll be more than happy to answer those for you. I'll keep checking it throughout the course of the webinar so that I can see when you're asking questions. So the first thing that I'm going to talk about is the ECES website. I think that most of you have registered already for the website, but I'm going to go through it anyway just so that you can see where everything is located and so that I can refer to it during the webinar. So this is our brand new website. It's actually brand new as of this summer. So we're really excited to be working with it. So in order to register, the first thing you should do is click login at the top right. That's also how you'll log in later. And you'll register as a new user. So in order to do that, you will enter your name, your last name, and your date of birth. And then on the next page, you'll be able to create a username and password. I've already created a sample account so that I can show you what the student end of the website looks like. So I'll log in with that. Once you log in, your username, by the way, can be your email address, but it can be something else, so you can get as creative as you'd like. Just make sure that you remember it. Once you get into the website, you'll be able to see your profile. So you'll see your name at the top and then all of this information, which really won't be that exciting for you now because the semester hasn't started. But once you arrive, you'll be able to see your weekly schedule here, the courses that you're registered for, your attendance, your grades, activities, all of that good stuff. For now, the most important thing is this left-hand sidebar, most specifically the pre-departure guide tab. So this page of the website has all of the most important information for you. It's actually mostly the pre-departure guide that I gave to you in a PDF, but it's more, it's a little bit different on the website. It's tailored for the website, but most importantly as well, I've put at the top all of the forms that you need, all of the documents that you need before you arrive. So you have the PDF of the pre-departure guide here. You have the sample visa application form here, and you also have the arrival details form, which I'll explain a little bit later. So in the webinar, the first thing that we're going to talk about is the CZECH visa application process. This is the list of everything that you need to go through for your visa application. And I'm going to go through everything piece by piece so that you understand what all of it means. It looks really overwhelming now, but I promise it's not as bad as it looks. The first thing that we're going to go through is the visa application form. So I'm going to go back to the website where I have the sample visa application, and I'll go through step by step. So feel free to fill it out along with me, or you can refer back to the recording afterwards. So at the top, the first line is your last name. So however your last name is written in your passport. Number 2 is your last name. If it was different when you were born, if you've always had the same last name, you can just leave number 2 blank. Number 3 is your first name. So this should also include your middle name if you have one and if it's listed in your passport. So for example, if your name is Richard James, but Richard J. Smith is written in your passport, then you should just put Richard J. Likewise, if James is there, you should put James. If nothing is there, you shouldn't put any middle name. It's really important that all of your documents that you submit for your visa application match your passport exactly. Number 4 is your date of birth, and for all legal documents for the Czech Republic, this should be in day, month, year format. That's really important, so be sure to write day, month, year. Your place of birth, if it's in the US, it should be the city and the state spelled out, as you can see here. Your country of birth, if you were born in the US, is USA. If you were born in another country, feel free to let me know and I can give you the country code. But I think for most of you it will be USA. And for number 6 and 7, the same, your original nationality and your current nationality. For numbers 8 and 9, you can just tick the appropriate box. Number 10, the first line should be your father's last name and the second line should be his first name. And for number 11, your mother's last name as it is now, her current legal last name. And on the next line, her first name. Number 12, you should tick the appropriate box for, I think all of you, it should be ordinary passport. If you don't have an ordinary passport, you would know about it. But if you're doubting, then you can let me know and I can tell you what you have. Number 13 is your passport number. Number 14 is the country it was issued by. So again, for most of you, this should be USA. Number 15 and 16, it's the date of issue and the valid until date, and these are both found within the passport on the data page, again in day, month, year format. And on the next page, number 17, if you have never lived in another country, then you can actually leave this question totally blank. And if you're from the US and you live the US rather, you can leave this question totally blank. If you are from another country, then you can let me know and I'll tell you how to answer this question because it is dependent on your situation. For number 18, for all of you, this needs to be student, and that's even if you have another full-time job, part-time job, something like this. For the purposes of the visa application, because you're applying as a student, it needs to be student. Number 19 is the name of your home university. So whatever your home university is, their address and phone number. And when you put the phone numbers, remember to put +1 first if it's in the US because that's the country code. Number 20 is the name of the university, and because our university name is quite long, it doesn't fit in the boxes, so just take the spaces out as we've done here. You can write it exactly as it is as you see here. Number 21, this is our address, so you can put our address here. For number 22, unless you've been in the Czech Republic for longer than 3 months, you can leave this one blank. Number 23, this is your address in Czech Republic. So I think all of you were planning to live at Kamenského dorm, so you can put this address, provided you're living in the dormitory. Number 24, you can leave blank because your postal address will be the same as your residency address. For number 25, this number has to be 111 as it's written here. And this applies even if you're planning to come early to the Schengen zone or Czech Republic or stay late. The visa application and the visa itself will be good only for the program dates, and any time that you stay in the Schengen zone before or after the program will be covered by your tourist visa. So this allows you 90 days in every 180-day period in the Czech Republic, or in the Schengen zone actually, so not just Czech Republic, but every Schengen European country. So if you're planning to come early or stay late, it doesn't matter for your visa application. So that's why this number has to match our documents exactly. For number 26, you can leave this blank unless you've ever had a Czech visa before. For number 27, unless you've had another Schengen visa, you can leave this blank. And then on the next page, number 28 is your purpose of stay. And again, this has to be study for this application. Number 29 and 30, you can copy exactly. These are the program start and end dates. And again, these have to match what's written here exactly, even if you plan to come to Europe early or stay late. Your place of entry in the Czech Republic will likely be Prague or Praha, which is Czech for Prague. Number 32 is your means of transport, which for most of you should be plane. Number 33 is your inviting person. This is the head of international relations at Charles University. Her name is Sylvia Bomova. And so you can copy all of this information exactly, actually all the way through the email address. It will all be the same as the sample. Number 34, the manner of funding your stay has to be yourself. And again, this has to be like this even if you have a scholarship or your parents are supporting you, something like this. For the purpose of the application, it's yourself. For number 35, the means of support during your stay should be cash and credit cards. We generally don't recommend that you bring traveler's checks. They're not really widely accepted anymore. And then you'll also have to check this travel and or health insurance box. The valid until date you should leave blank because once you get your insurance document later in the webinar, then you can go back and insert the valid until date. But wait until that time because it has to match your insurance certificate. On the next page, number 36 and 37, you can leave blank unless you are married or have children. And And on the last page, number 38, is your home address. So this is your permanent address, likely whatever is written on your driver's license. And if the address doesn't fit, you can do the same as what we did with Charles University, where you squish the words together. Number 39 should be your phone number, and this should be a number where you're actually easily reached, like your cell phone, because if there's an issue with your application, they may call you. And again, remember to put the country code, so +1 and then the number. And number 40 is your email address. So again, this is really important that it's an email you're easily reached at, because if there's an issue with your application, most likely they will email you first before contacting you another way. And then the last thing that you need to do at the bottom is just put the date, the place where you are right now, and then in the next box, your signature. So that's actually the whole visa application form. It's not too complicated, I hope, but really refer to the sample because it should be useful to you in figuring out what needs to be filled in where. If you have any questions about it, please let me know. Okay, so the next document is this document confirming your purpose of stay. This is one of the documents that we will be sending you, and actually all of them should be going out tomorrow in the mail via FedEx in the morning, unless you haven't paid your housing deposit yet. Some of you don't have to pay a housing deposit if your university is paying it, so if I've emailed you about paying a housing deposit and you haven't done so yet, please do that because your documents will be delayed if I don't have that. But this is one of the ones you'll get from us. With this document, you actually don't need to do anything. It is as it is. It will have your name, your date of birth, and your nationality, and then a signature at the bottom with a round blue stamp. When you get this document, just check to make sure that your name and date of birth and nationality match what's in your passport exactly. That's important. And if they don't, please be in touch with me via email right away, and I can fix it for you. The next document is your document confirming sufficient financial resources. So this is a copy of the front and back of a debit card, and that card has to be in your name, and the copy has to be notarized. So this is one of the weirder requirements for the Czech visa because a lot of US notaries don't really understand the concept of notarizing a photocopy because it's really something different than what notarization is in the US. They're used to notarizing signatures. So in case they refuse to notarize a photocopy for you, then you can write something like, I certify that this is an original copy of my debit card, and then go to the notary and sign this statement in front of them, and they will notarize the copy with that signature on it. This is sometimes the only way that it works. We've had students in the past have issues getting notarization otherwise. The next document is a bank account statement, and the bank account statement has to have a minimum of at least $3,000, and it needs to be in your name. So you can print an online statement from your bank online, or you can get a physical statement from the bank. It doesn't really matter either way, but the most important is that your name is on the account and that the balance is at least $3,000. This is based on current exchange rates, so in case the exchange rates fluctuate, we do encourage you to have a little bit more, just in case, because the actual minimum requirement is in Czech crowns. So we have a question, which is if the $3,000 can be split between savings and checking, or should it all be in one account? It all needs to be in one checking account. So in case you don't have this in your checking account, which is actually quite a common problem, there's a couple of ways to solve it. If you have the money in your savings account and you can bring it over in order to print a statement from your checking account, that's fine. You can do that. Just print the statement with it in your checking account, and you can move the money back to your savings account afterwards if you'd like to. Similarly, if somebody can put the money in your account for the time it takes to get your statement, that's okay as well. The most important thing is that you just have the statement that shows the money is there. But they won't check, or they typically don't check after, so it's not really an issue. That's what most students end up doing, is that the money gets transferred temporarily into their accounts to print the bank statement. So I hope that answers your question. If you have any other questions about this requirement, or if this is an issue for you, please contact me right away so that we can talk about a way to sort it out. but this is a requirement, so it's important that you take care of it. The bank account statement itself does not need to be notarized, only the copy of the debit card. And the debit card should be tied to the bank account with the minimum balance in it. Okay, so I don't see any more questions. I'll move on to the next. This document is the other document that we will be sending to you. It's the proof of accommodation. So this is also all in Czech, but actually you'll get 2 copies in Czech, 1 copy in English. You only need to submit 1 of the Czech copies to the consulate. And when you get this, you'll see some post-it flags on it where you need to fill in information. So one of those bits of information will be here. One will be here, which is your passport number. The first one is your home address, your permanent address. And at the bottom of the page, you'll need to sign. So you'll get 2 copies in Czech and 1 in English, as I mentioned. The second Czech copy and the English copy are for you to keep because you're signing the document. The English one is just a translation so that you know that what you've signed exactly. And you should carry them with you when you travel to the Czech Republic, just in case the border agent asks where you'll be staying. We have another question. Do you need a notarized credit card in person? So you don't need to notarize the credit card, just a photocopy of the credit card. You don't need to send in a credit card with your visa application. You just need to send in the photocopy, which is notarized. So I hope that answers your question, but if you need some other help with that, please type in the box and I'll answer. Okay, so the next document is the criminal history background affidavit. And for the question that was just posted, I'll get back to you at the end because that's actually something that I cover, so hang tight. So for the criminal history background affidavit, this is the document. It's linked to in the pre-departure guide. It's also on the consulate website, so you can download the Word document. This document also needs to be notarized, so after you fill out the top section, don't sign it because you need to bring it to the notary with the copy of your debit card to have both notarized at the same time. If you sign it before you get to the notary, then you'll have to do it again because the notary won't notarize something unless you sign it in front of them. So I'll go through this quickly. The first line is your first name and middle name if it appears in your passport, similarly to the application form. The second line is your last name. The next line is your maiden name. If you don't have one, you can just leave it blank. The next line is your date of birth, again in day, month, year format. Then your place of birth, which should be city and state. Your nationality, which for most of you will be USA. Your passport number, and then your permanent address, which again is your home address. Then you should put your telephone number, again with +1, the area code, and the phone number, and then your email address. And remember not to sign it until you're in front of the notary, and then you can sign it and they'll notarize it for you. So that document is pretty simple. All right, so the next item is the health insurance contract. So I'll just go through quickly how to do this on the online form. There's a couple of different health insurance companies that you can get insurance from. And even if you have insurance in the US, you still need to get the Czech insurance because most of the companies that are accepted by the government, the Czech government, for the purposes of the visa application are Czech companies. If you believe that your insurance may be accepted, please just ask me and I can let you know before you purchase this one. There's a couple of different Czech insurance companies that you can purchase from. We recommend Maxima because we have a relationship with them. We know how their system works. We also have doctors in Prague which accept their insurance that speak English, most importantly. So you can check out the other ones as well, but I'll demonstrate with this one just so that you can see the process. So if you go to maximapoishovna.com or .cz, if the page isn't in English, when you get there, just click EN in the top right-hand corner. Once you're on this page, you'll click Foreigners Insurance and then Insure Online. Scroll down and you'll see the 2 options of insurance. We generally recommend the complex medical insurance because it will also cover you for travel within the Schengen zone. So if you intend to travel while you're in Prague, it's a good option and the price difference isn't very significant. But you can read through both policies just to see what the differences are and then make a decision. Either one applies for the visa. So once you select your insurance, you can click I am a student if you're younger than 26, because that will give you a better price, and then continue. Scroll down and click 4 months. This is the minimum that you need for the program. The insurance needs to be for the duration of at least the entire program. And then as long as you're buying it only for the program, you can click on the program start date, which is the 29th of January, and it'll auto-populate the expiration date. And this is the date that you go back and put on your application form. So once you've done that, you can click continue, and then you'll put in your details. So as a sample, I'll just put in some details. Your date of birth, so it's your city, your zip code, your street address, your telephone number, again with the area code, your email address, and you can leave dealer ID blank. So once you click continue, 2 more boxes will pop up. One of them is nationality. So again, you can just put USA, provided you're a US citizen, and then your passport number. So check all of your information, then click continue. Once you're on the next page, just make sure you read through everything to make sure that it's correct information. And then you can confirm and click pay the premium. Now, before you pay the premium, please call your bank or credit card company, whichever you're going to use, to let them know that you're going to be making a foreign payment. This payment is in the Czech Republic, and most credit card companies, for whatever reason, think that you paying for health insurance in Czech Republic while you're in the US is a bit strange. So most of the time, your card will be blocked. It happens all the time. So it's much better if you call your bank ahead of time to let them know that you'll be making this payment. It's about $100, give or take, so you can tell them that. And then they shouldn't block the payment because they'll be aware that it's coming through. Once you pay, you will get an email with a contract and all of the terms and conditions. I strongly encourage you to forward this email to me so that way I can keep your health insurance contract on file in case of emergency. It's not mandatory, but it is really useful in case something happens and you need to go to the hospital and we bring you there. That way we can bring the insurance information with you and you don't need to worry about it while you're sick. So I'm happy to store that for you. Just drop me an email with the forward that you received from the insurance company. All right. So I'll move on to the next. Actually, we're at the end of most of the requirements. So in terms of the rest of the visa application, you need to submit one copy or one original of everything plus one photocopy of everything. And what I actually recommend is that you make 2 photocopies of every single document. So that way you can submit one with your visa application and keep one for yourself. Additionally, you need 2 passport photos. So these aren't photos of your passport, but rather the size photos that you would submit if you were applying for a new passport. And this is what they'll use to actually give you your visa. Your visa will have your photo on it. So you can get these taken at a place like CVS, for example. They're super easy to take. And so make sure that you submit the 2 originals of those. Additionally, you need to submit 2 copies of your passport data page plus your actual passport. So for everything else, you just need 1 original and 1 copy. For your passport, you need the original passport plus 2 copies of the data page. That's important. And then, in terms of submitting your visa application, there's 2 options. In the pre-departure guide, you will see on page 5 a list of all of the states in the U.S. and which corresponding consulate or embassy you should apply at. So you can't just apply at any consulate or embassy. You need to apply at your corresponding embassy or consulate based on your permanent address. So even if you're going to school in Washington, D.C., but you live in Chicago, then you'll apply in Chicago. Your home address is in Chicago. You can't really mix and match. So The most ideal situation for submitting your visa application is to apply in person. So if you're able to go to the consulate where you need to submit your application and submit it in person, that's the easiest. Because you have to submit your original passport, it means that you don't have to put your passport in the mail. Likewise, if you can go pick it up after your visa is approved, go pick up your passport. It's better if you can do it in person. That way you know you have it. And you don't have to worry about it. If you can't, that's okay. Not a big deal at all. You can submit your visa application in the mail. So all you have to do is send it via overnight express mail with tracking, with insurance, every kind of safeguard that you can put on the envelope. And if you can't pick it up, then you should also include a prepaid self-addressed overnight envelope. Almost all of the consulates require that you send a USPS express mail envelope from the US Postal Service, but double check on the consulate's website what kind of envelope that they're currently requiring before you send, because they most of the time will only accept one type of envelope. Like if they accept US Postal Service, they won't accept FedEx, for example. So that's the alternative. We have another question about the insurance. Online, it says, on the ECES website, it says the foreigner's emergency medical care insurance rather than the complex. Both are totally acceptable, so it's absolutely up to you which you prefer. The complex one is just more comprehensive, so it means it'll cover you for more things and in more places. So before you buy it, I really encourage you to just read through what each covers, and also to ask your home insurance provider what they cover, so that way between the two, you get the most coverage possible. If your home insurance provider will cover a lot for you while you're abroad, then you maybe don't need the complex one. So yeah, it's completely up to you. In terms of processing time for the visa application, the consulates have up to 60 days. So the best is for you to submit your visa application as soon as possible. So you should all have your documents from Charles University by next week. So as soon as you have them, if you have all of the other documents prepared, you can go ahead and submit them. The latest, absolute latest that you should submit your visa application is by Thanksgiving, because this means that you will have the full 60 days to submit the application and for them to process it. Keep in mind that if there is an error in your application, it pauses the 60-day period. So it could actually take longer if there's an error somewhere in your application. So in order to give yourself some wiggle room, the best is to submit it as soon as possible, but you really do have until Thanksgiving to submit it, and you'll still be well within the 60-day period. If you want to scan and send me an email with all of your documents before you submit your application, I am more than happy to look through your documents for you, and I can check to see if I see any errors or if I see that anything's missing. Definitely more than happy to do that, and I actually really encourage you to do it, because this way 2 pairs of eyes have looked at it, and I've looked at a lot of visa applications, so probably I may catch some things that you might have missed, and it's just another safeguard before you submit it to your consulate. All right, so do you have any other questions about the visa application process? I don't see any coming in, but if you have any that come up later, please pop them in the chat box or send me an email, and I'm happy to answer them. Okay. So the next thing that I'm going to talk about is some bits about the actual ECES program, so that you have an idea of what to expect before you come. This is our program dates calendar, and actually all of this information you can find on our website. So I'll just bring back up our website so that you can see where it is. If you go to the semester information page and scroll all the way down to the bottom, this full calendar is here. It's also in your pre-departure guide. It will be in your student guide when you arrive. It will be in this recording. It will be under program overview and then calendar. So really the calendar is everywhere, and I encourage you to look through it so that you're not surprised by different, extraordinary class days or something like this. The makeup days, the check course, all of these things are important. So please be sure you know the calendar. Also, it'll give you an idea of when our national holidays are in the spring, because we do have 3 of them. So it's 3 days off for you. Okay, so in terms of academics, You can take with the ECES program up to 7 courses, which includes the mandatory intensive Czech language course that's before the semester. 7 courses is a lot of courses. Most of our students take between 3 and 4 courses in addition to the Czech language course. During the initial registration period, beginning December 3rd, you can register for up to 4 courses, and then after you arrive, if you want to take more than 4 courses, you can do so from January 29th. Keep in mind that our courses have a little bit more independent style of learning than you may be used to at home, and professors really do expect a lot of personal responsibility. They expect that you've done your readings ahead of time and have an idea of the class material before you show up. It's not that they're lecturing to people who've never talked about the topic before. They expect you to have done your readings in advance so that you can contribute to the conversation in class. So keep in mind that most of our courses don't have a ton of assignments. You may only have 2 assignments. You may only have a midterm exam and a final exam, or a paper and a presentation, something like this. And those assignments will make up the majority of your grade. So when you're looking at our course syllabi, it's important that you don't look for courses that look like they don't have a lot of assignments, because a lot of the times the assignments they do have are weighted heavily, and also it can be a bit deceptive. It may seem like a course will be really easy because it doesn't have a lot of assignments, when in reality it's one of the more difficult courses because there's a lot more readings to catch up on, etc. So please, when you're choosing courses, make sure you go through each syllabus, read the whole thing so that you understand actually what the topics of each course is, so that you're not surprised about what will be required from you during the program. In terms of courses, I'll just go back to this for a second. The course list is actually largely online already. So when you're logged into the website, if you click courses on the left side of the screen and you scroll down, this is our list of courses for the spring semester. The schedules aren't online yet, and also the number of places in each course aren't available yet because the schedules haven't been set yet. So once all of that is available online, it should be mid-November roughly, then you'll be able to see the schedule and the number of places in each course. But for now, you can see the courses and you can see the syllabus. So if you click on a course title and scroll down, you'll see the course description. But if you click again on the course title or the section and scroll down a little bit, you'll see the syllabus PDF here. And this is, you'll find it for almost all of the courses. There's a couple of professors who are still updating their syllabus, but for the most part, they're online. And if you scroll through, you'll be able to see pretty much all of the information that you need about the course. You'll be able to submit it to your home universities to get courses approved for transfer. And if you have any questions about them, the syllabus or the courses, please let me know. I'm happy to answer those for you. Okay, so the intensive Czech language course is the required Czech course that happens before the regular semester begins. It's also worth 3 credits, so you get a full 3 credits for the class. It'll be on your transcript just like any other course. It's not differentiated. And it meets for 10 days for about 5 hours per day. It teaches Czech language and also some culture information that you can use when you're in Prague, and not all of it is classroom based. Some of it is more experiential. The professors will take you on a walk of Prague or ask you to go, order at a cafe in Czech, something like this. So it's not 5 hours straight of sitting in a classroom, although there is classroom time certainly for all of the courses, but it is one of the requirements. It also sets you up really well in case you want to take Czech for the rest of the semester. This is the only course that you can declare as pass-fail at Charles University. Your home university may have their own pass-fail option, but that's separate. So if you want to declare this course pass-fail, you only need to do so by the end of the second day of class. So the information about this, again, under semester information, if you scroll down a bit, you'll see this section on the intensive Czech language course, and you'll see this pass-fail form. This is the form that you'll need to submit to us to declare the course pass-fail. And again, by the end of the second lecture, you should have submitted this. It won't be accepted after. So read through it, but you don't need to decide now. You can wait until after you're in Prague to submit it. In terms of course registration, our registration will begin at 6 o'clock on Sunday, December 3rd, which is 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Spaces and courses are given on a first-come, first-served basis, so you can come online at that time, and once it turns to 12 p.m. on the East Coast, then you can start registering for courses. We recommend that you get at least 1 or 2 extra courses approved from your home university in advance, just in case you end up waitlisted for one of your first choices. If you register for a course which is already full, you're automatically placed on a wait list. So it doesn't mean that it's impossible for you to get into the course, but it does mean that enough students from the course have to drop in order for you to be bumped in, and you'll be bumped in automatically. So if you register, you'll be automatically put on the wait list, and then if enough spaces become available, you'll be automatically moved into the class. In terms of registration, keep in mind that it is possible in the system for you to be registered for conflicting classes. And this is because in case you're waitlisted for a course and you want to register for a backup course that meets at the same time, you can register for both while you wait to get off the wait list for the first. But you cannot take 2 courses which conflict in time, of course, so it's your responsibility to make sure that you don't have any conflicting courses on your schedule by March 1st, which is the end of the add-drop period. So from December 3rd until March 4th, you can sign in and out of classes at will, so you can continue changing your schedule the whole time. The course list, like I said, is largely available now. The schedule will be available in the next couple of weeks, and I will send out an email to everybody once the schedule is available so that you can start looking to plan your schedule and see which courses you want and can take together. Okay? So in terms of arriving in Prague, our official arrival day and the program start date is Monday, January 29th. If you want to come early to the program or early to Prague, you can certainly do that, but you'll be provided with transportation to the dorm only on the 29th. If you come earlier than that, you need to provide your own transportation to the dorm. And if you want to use that transportation, you need to send me your arrival details by January 7th. So I'll go back to the website to show you where the form is under pre-departure guide, and then up at the top under arrival details form. If you click that, it'll open a Google Doc form which you can fill out with your arrival details. If you plan to arrive earlier than January 29th in Prague and you want to stay at the dorm, you might be able to do that. We can request the space for you, but keep in mind that it's not a guarantee. So the earlier you tell me, the better, because we have to request the reservation. So if you plan to do that, fill it out on this form, but also send me an email. And once you email me with the details of your arrival, I'll check with the dorm to see if there's space available and we'll reserve it for you. And then I'll confirm with you that you will have space in the dorm early. So in terms of checking into the dorm, there will be an ECF staff member at the dorm waiting for you with your housing package. In the housing package, you'll get all of the program forms, the boring things, but also you'll have a map of the area around the dorm with cafes, restaurants, and places with free Wi-Fi. Also, you will have a housing package that has all the information about the dorms, everything that you need. We'll also, so it's important to know for the first few days that the internet in the dorm will only be through Ethernet cable for you, because you won't be able to connect to the university Wi-Fi until after you're registered in the system, which will happen by the end of the first week. Usually we can get you the Wi-Fi passwords on Thursday, sometimes on Friday, but we get them to you as soon as possible, so that way you can log in. In the meantime, like I said, we'll provide you with a map where there's Wi-Fi, free Wi-Fi in the area of the dorm, but you can also connect with an Ethernet cable on your computer in the meantime. There's cables provided for you at the dorm if you want to use them, but you just need to check that you actually have the Ethernet port in your computer. So as I mentioned, the arrival day is the 29th. You can check in at any time that day, but I recommend that if you get to Prague around 3 or 4 in the afternoon, it's the best, or at least by then. Of course, in the morning is good too. This gives you some time to relax during the day. Also, it isn't so stressful. The next day will be certainly an early morning with all of the orientation things that need to be done. So this way you're not getting in super late and you're not going to be super tired the next day. The ECES meet and greet is that night. So this is an optional event. It's where you can go and buy yourself some dinner. We make a reservation at a local pub and you can meet all of us, the ECES staff, Susanna, who's the housing coordinator, and you can meet each other, of course. So it's just kind of a nice way to chill in the evening while everybody's getting settled. The next day, we'll have your housing orientation. We'll take you to get your student ID cards, and then we'll have a welcome meeting with the program so that you can learn about the university, learn all of the information you need to know, and meet everybody in the program. On Wednesday, you'll be able to buy your transportation pass. So we recommend that you buy your transportation pass. It's super useful. Most students end up using it quite a lot when they're in Prague. The Prague transportation system is really comprehensive, and it's not a very expensive pass. It's around, I think, $30 on the current exchange rate for 3 months. And it gives you unlimited access. It's 720 Czech crowns. The scavenger hunt is an opportunity for you to work in small groups with each other and also local Czech students to find your way around the city, learn how to use the public transport system, find out where their favorite cafes and restaurants are. And then we end with a river cruise where you get dinner, you get a chance to relax, to meet the other students, and just sail by Prague Castle, which is just really beautiful. The rest of orientation is made up of mostly your Czech language class and also 2 day trips. So you can see in the calendar at the bottom of the screen how the orientation period will look. So you can see that the first Thursday and Friday, and then the following 2 weeks, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, are your Czech language class. Keep in mind that because this class is only 10 days long and it is a full 3 credits, that all of the days are required. So it's important that you know that you do not have Fridays off for the first 3 weeks of the program. For the rest of the program, you have almost every Friday free with no classes. There's just 2 makeup days on Fridays to make up for the national holidays. But for the first 3 weeks, you should not plan to travel on Fridays. The second and third Wednesdays are made up of the ECES day trips. So these are actually really fun trips that give you an opportunity to get outside of Prague, to see some local places, to experience, some other bits of Czech culture and history with our guides who are usually professors. And so I'll post those trips on the ECES website and I'll show you where. So once you're logged in, if you go to the left side under activities, eventually here you will see a list of all of the trips and activities available throughout the semester, both optional and the pre-semester mandatory day trips. And you'll be able to register for these online in advance as well. We'll have either 3 or 4 options per day. So you can pick the one you're most interested in, again, on a first-come, first-served basis. And once those are posted online, I'll send you more information about when you can register for them. And as I mentioned, we have some other trips and activities, things like a tour of Prague Castle, a hiking trip. We have some weekend trips available. And then Susanna, who's the housing coordinator, also runs cafe and gallery excursions and excursions to opera, ballet, and theater performances in Prague to give you a taste of some Czech culture, both sort of hipper, newer culture in some of the galleries, but also the high culture of the opera, ballet, and theater in the national theaters. So this information will be posted again on the ECES website under activities, and I'll be sending you an email when it's available so that you know when you can pre-register for these activities. In terms of your housing, you'll be living in the Kamenskeho dorm. It was built in the 1930s. For Yugoslav students, and it's actually a protected historical site. It's a interesting building. It's a bit quirky. All of the rooms are a different size. It's not a perfect square, so it's a bit of an interesting place. And all of the rooms are in suites. So most of the suites have between 2 and 3 rooms, and each suite either has single or double rooms for the most part. Each suite shares a small kitchenette, which has a hot plate and a mini fridge, and also a bathroom. There's also in the dorm a kitchen with cooking supplies that's available only to ECES students, and a study room that's available only to ECES students. You have a housing coordinator living on site whose name is Susanna, and so she can help you manage, what you need to manage while you're at the dorm. You have breakfast provided to you Monday through Friday except national holidays. And this breakfast is, a cold European breakfast. So things like yogurt, cold cuts, cheese, hard-boiled eggs, bread, cereal, these sorts of things. Your dorm address will also be your mailing address. So once you arrive, we'll be able to give you your specific address. Keep in mind that I do have your housing forms. So if you haven't sent your housing form already, please send it. That's important. But also, we give the dorm your preferences, but the dorm actually assigns the rooms, which means that I can't provide you with your room assignments in advance because I don't have the final room assignments until really just before you arrive. So it means that when you arrive, you'll get your room assignments. 95% of the time, the dorm is able to accommodate your preferences. And if you arrive and you're really unhappy with your housing, then come talk to us and we'll be happy to help you sort it out. But please, in advance, don't ask me for your room assignments because I just won't know them, unfortunately, before you come. So I just wanted to talk about some cultural considerations to get you thinking about how things may be different for you in the Czech Republic. But hopefully this will encourage some of your own personal research into the topic. So the biggest thing that most students talk about is openness to strangers. So most Czechs are stereotypically considered to be very cold, but actually more realistically, it's not that they're cold or unfriendly, it's just that they're not used to being friendly to people who they're not already friends with, which means that it may seem difficult for you initially to make friends with local Czech people, but it doesn't mean that it's impossible. And actually, Czech friends are really great friends. Because of this, it means that they don't really have acquaintances as often as most Americans do. So it is going to be not the easiest thing to make loads of Czech friends, but it is something we really encourage you to do. I'll be sending information out about the International Club, so you can join the International Club. It's a really great way to meet local students, but also I just encourage you to keep attending events, keep talking to local people, and you will find a group of friends. It is possible, you just have to put in the effort. One of the other things that you'll notice is restaurant etiquette and how it's different. What's provided to you may be a little bit different than you're used to in the US, especially in terms of service. You won't really find free water in the Czech Republic, for example. You won't find bubbly and friendly waitresses. Waitresses and waitstaff here don't really work on tips as often as they do in the US, so it means that they're not really going out of their way to be of service to you, but rather they're just doing their job. The tipping structure is usually that you tip around 10% or you round up. You're not required to tip. It's really based on good service. So your first restaurant experience may not be the most friendly, but this is really just part of the Czech culture. Another thing is the public transport etiquette, and this is something that will probably come up initially when you first arrive because you'll be using the public transport to get around. And especially in the beginning when you tend to be traveling in groups of a lot of students in the program, you may find that when you walk onto a train and you're all talking to each other really loudly, that people are staring at you, and it's because people are actually usually very quiet on trams and on the metro. They're not talking a lot, and they definitely notice when a group of Americans gets on because they're usually very loud. It's a bit of a stereotype about Americans. So I encourage you when you first arrive, and especially when you're using public transport, to look at the behavior of the local people around you and try and mimic it when you're in these public situations. Get up when you see an elderly person, get on the tram so that they can sit. Stand to the right of the escalators going into the metro so that somebody on the left can get by you. These sorts of little things that you'll pick up on, but you should be aware that they're taken very seriously here. So just be aware of what's going on around you and really try and mimic the local polite behaviors that are really just strongly enforced here. And the last thing I want to mention is classroom etiquette. Czech classrooms are a little bit different than most American classrooms. It's really important that you act very respectfully towards your professors. So this means, not using the obvious things, computers or phones in class, but also it means that if you're running, 5 minutes late for class and you walk in, not to just sneak into the back of the room and sit down and be quiet, but to actually apologize to the professor and say hello. These little behaviors are considered really respectful, and the teachers really do appreciate it. A lot of our teachers are used to teaching non-Czech students, but the majority of our teachers are Czech. So just keep in mind that the classroom experience will probably be different than your home university experience, but that's actually part of the adventure, right? And it's part of what you're coming abroad to experience. So I hope that you can do some research in advance, maybe talk to some local students, talk to a Czech buddy from the international club, so that you can get an idea of what to expect before you arrive. And of course, if you have questions about these things, either before you come or after you come, get in touch with me. I'm from the US originally, and I've been living here for 3 years, so I definitely understand what it's like to be a new American in Prague, so I can hope to answer some of those questions as well. So in terms of practical considerations, a lot of students want to know about phone usage. The International Club at Charles University actually will provide you with a SIM card, and this is a SIM card through the Vodafone company. So it's a really good deal for students. It provides you with some data, calling and texting, and it's a renewable pay-as-you-go plan. So you don't have to get a contract. You just have to use the phone that is provided, or the phone SIM card that's provided to you. If you want to use this on a smartphone, just make sure that your phone is unlocked before you come. If it's not unlocked, then probably you won't be able to use it, because typically you would have to buy out your contract in order to unlock your phone. You can check with your provider about that. But if your phone is locked, you can still use the SIM card here. You should just buy like a cheap track phone when you get here, and then you can use your smartphone on Wi-Fi. Another thing is, again, like we talked about with the insurance, before you come, you should call your credit card company and your bank to let them know you'll be traveling. And if you plan to be outside of Czech Republic, you should also call and tell them about that. So that way, when you're using your bank cards and credit cards abroad, you aren't blocked from using them for potentially fraudulent usage. Most of your electronics will convert voltage automatically, but you will need adapters for your electronics, so this will change the plug shape from an American plug to a European plug. If you want to go to the UK, the plug shape there is different, so if you're planning to travel to London, for example, you should also buy an adapter for the UK. Be careful with heat-producing appliances because, and these are things like hair straighteners, hair dryers, curling irons. These things can still overheat even with voltage converters, and those will require voltage converters. So if you want to use them, I actually encourage you to buy them once you arrive. I can point you in the direction when you get here of places where you can get them relatively inexpensively. And that way you don't risk them overheating, because they definitely can still overheat even if you're using a voltage converter. Another thing that you can start doing is to start learning Czech. So there's an app called Memrise, which is a phone app that has Czech to English lessons. Duolingo also just released their Czech version. I don't think it's in the app yet, but it's on their desktop version, so you can start using that. This will be really helpful for you for your intensive Czech course, of course. And yeah, so it's a really great way to start thinking about Czech Republic, thinking about pronunciation, all of that good stuff. And my last piece of advice is to get an ISIC card. This is officially recommended by Charles University. It's an international student identity card. And this is something that you buy before you come. You have to get it before you come. And it gives you access to special discounts that are only for international students or for students in general. And it will give you access to some discounts that even your Charles University student ID won't give you access to. Some discounts in Europe are provided only for ISIC card holders. So you can check on their website whether the discounts that they provide will be useful to you if you think that you'll use those services or go to those stores. I think the card, at least if I remember, is around $25, but you can go onto their website and check what they have and decide if it's worth buying for you. Okay, so that's actually all that I have. Does anybody have any questions? Those of you that are here. If not, I'll just leave you with a couple of reminders, which is that you should definitely submit your visa application by Thanksgiving, by the end of November at the very latest. And also, if you want me to check over your visa application before you submit it, please email it to me, scan all of the documents and email them to me, and I'm happy to look over to make sure that I don't see any glaring issues before you submit it. All right, so if that's everything, I don't see any other questions. I'm going to go ahead and stop recording.